Hi guys, Shadow again. So today welcome back to my channel. We're back with another Sims 4 speed build, and today I really wanted to come in and make like a plant themed house. I wanted to create a house for a Sim that is obsessed with gardening, nature, all that good stuff, a lot of greenery everywhere. We end up giving them a big garden where they can grow their own plants, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. This is one of my favourite aesthetics. I would love to be a plant person. I have a few plants in my house, but I'd love to be like a person who has like propagation and plants hanging from every single surface, because I think it just looks so cool, but I'm just like not that great at keeping them alive. So I don't think that is a path I could take on, but I am very jealous of the people who are living their best plant life. So my thought for this build is I want the house to be very small and compact. It's kind of like a little tiny house, because I imagine the Sims spends a lot of time outside. Maybe they're a gardener and they just like live in this cute little, it's not a cottage, but it's a cute little tiny house. We use a lot of like earthy tones in here, so there's like a lot of greens, a lot of browns, all that fun stuff. For the outside, I use like this really sunny yellow colour, because I want the house to just look very cheerful, I guess, from the curb and as you're passing. And then we give them like this little deck area so they can come outside, they can enjoy the scenery, they can sit out and enjoy like the sun and stuff. I imagine maybe they spend, like I said, they spend a lot of time outside, so maybe like, I don't know, I love giving my Sims these balconies because I feel like maybe they sit out here with like the morning paper and a cup of coffee and just enjoy the space. I live vicariously through my Sims because personally I would love to do that, but A, I live in Wales and the weather is crap most of the time and it's freezing in the morning, so you cannot. And B, I don't know, I'm not really a sitting outdoor person. Sometimes in the summer when it gets like to that time of day where at like 8 p.m. the sun is still out and it's kind of warm, then it's fun. But I am very much a firmly indoor sort of gal. I don't like the bugs and stuff that are flying everywhere. And I don't know, I'm just not, I just prefer to sit inside. So I like to give my Sims these like spaces where they can sit outside, because I really wish I was a person who did it more and, you know, could just sit outside like with my dog in the garden and enjoy like the scenery while having a cup of coffee. But I just never do. I always think to do it, but I just never do. And I just stay inside, which is why I am probably the shade of white that I currently am. So we give them like a nice big deck, and then I give them like this, I'm going to call it an awning. I don't know what else you'd call it above, and we do something really cool with that after. I give them this like really rugged path. It's like stepping stones, and I do love this path. It comes in a fair few swatches. Some of them are a bit more out there, like this one is a little bit pink, but there are some greener swatches, and I do like it as like a more natural looking path rather than something that's a bit manicured. And then we're coming around with the same fence there and adding it to our back garden just to like block it out so I know what space I've got to work with when we come to add that. I did kind of go detail heavy on this one. I wanted, like I said, I wanted this house to look really cute and like aesthetically pleasing from the outside. So we add in window boxes. I add like loads of landscaping around because, like I said, maybe this Sim is a gardener. If they're not a gardener, they are just very into gardening and being outside. So I wanted to give them like a wide variety of plants and trees so that they could like tend to them. I imagine they could easily waste an afternoon, well not waste, but disappear an afternoon in their garden just messing around in their flower beds, maybe getting rid of the weeds. I don't really know what you do with flower beds. Do you organise them, or is it kind of a thing that once you set them up they're done? I feel like you definitely weed them. So maybe they weed them. They're kind of always working on something. I think they've always got a garden project going. So maybe they're introducing different like flower beds or planters, or there's just something out here. I mean, my granddad is very much a keen gardener and he can often spend an afternoon pottering around. What does he do out there? Couldn't tell you. But he does something that's enough to spend a good fair few hours on a regular basis in his garden. Just pottering around, I think, organising things, tidying things up, checking on what plants he's growing, because he grows like vegetables and stuff as well. So I imagine this Sim is similar. I think it'd be really cute as well, maybe if they're an older Sim and like they're retired, so they have all this time to just spend and dedicate to their garden. It's like a passion project and like a little bit of their baby. They've put a lot of time and effort into here, and they are obviously getting the fruits of their labours because it's very much flourishing. And maybe all their other like neighbours pop round and kind of get advice on what to grow and when to grow it and when the best season is for things. I think that would be really cute. So I've added dual planters into the front of each of the deck there. They are slightly different, but they are very much overgrown, which I like. With these planters, I really like to use like a lot of height differences. So we add in like some taller plants, some smaller ones, and then I finish it off by adding in the flowers that have like the grass, just because I think it adds like a nice touch to it. And then we bordered that with some rocks, and then I come in with some dirt now and just add it under everything, just because I think it ties it all together. It makes it kind of a bit more realistic that they're not just sat on the grass, they would be in dirt. And it just adds like that little touch, I think, that finishes it off and brings it all together. Not gonna lie, I probably did go slightly heavy-handed here, but you get the effect all the same. And then I just add it as well under the path that leads up to the front deck. And now moving on to the front deck, we add in some porch lights. Just so I always add these to my builds, because I feel like if you're coming home at night, you want lights so you can see what's happening. And also it lights the space up at night time and it looks really pretty. I also add a couple of benches. As I said, I think they'd sit out here a lot. So add one, like a bigger bench, and then like a little rocking chair with some magazines. So if the weather's nice, they can just be outside, enjoying nature, listening to the birds, all that good stuff. And then I add a cute little rug onto the front deck there, so that when they come in, they can like wipe their feet. So moving inside, you can see that this space isn't big. It is a very compact house. It's very small. The majority of the lot is taken over by the garden, which is what I had intended, but it has everything you need. We get a kitchen, living room, bedroom and bathroom, so it has your staples in here, but it's not extravagant and there's not a whole lot of space. Not gonna lie, the floor plan did give me a bit of a jiffy because of the shape of it and like obviously the size. I wasn't sure what to do with it. It does end up being very much open plan and they get like a little small bathroom, but it did puzzle me for a second while I tried to figure out what exactly I wanted to do here and how I imagined the space like working together. So we start over here in the kitchen and we come in and add our counters. I wanted to do a wraparound kitchen, so because we have like this awkward shape with the bay, I wanted to add it like wrapping around, but you really can't do that in The Sims. I've tried multiple times to kind of angle these counters in a way where you could like rotate them so you could kind of have it continuing around the corner, but you really can't. It glitches and I've just not found a counter that works with it. If anyone has managed to do that, let me know what counters you've used, because I feel like it would be such a cool feature in a kitchen, because I obviously do like these bays quite a lot. So to be able to have like a full wraparound kitchen I think would look really cool. It's just the lighting glitches it out and the counters just look weird. So yeah, if anyone has successfully done that, feel free to let me know what you used and I will definitely give it a go. So the kitchen is quite small, it's compact, but it has everything you need. We end up with like a cooker and a fridge, obviously, and then just a little bit of clutter because we don't have too much workspace, so I didn't want to add too much because I wanted to give like your Sims like a couple of places where they could cook. So I add on one surface like the dishes stuff, so I think that one you wouldn't be able to use, but you've got the one by the cooker and then the one where the bread bin is, you would still be able to use that. So you've got a couple of cooking spaces, and then we also pop in the coffee machine and the standard cakes above the fridge because I still think it looks absolutely adorable. And now I'm coming in trying to figure out what I want to do for a dining room, if I want to go for more of like a cottagey feel or keep to kind of like the neutral tones and like the light woods and the greens. And I do believe I parked that for a minute because I feel like I want to get the other furniture in. Because it is an open plan, I need to figure out how all these swatches are going to work together. So with the bed, the sofa and then the dining room table. So I kind of figure out the sofa and the bed first and then use the colour scheme off those to fit in like the rest of the room. So I did want this space to be cozy. I don't know what exactly the style it is. I was definitely going for something, but I couldn't tell you what the style was. I wanted it to be very natural in here because obviously, like I've said a billion times now, the Sim is very much an outdoor enthusiast. So I thought their house would reflect that, and they'd have like a lot of natural wood and a lot of natural tones, like florals, that kind of stuff. So I guess that is the style we went for, but honestly, could I name it? No, I could not. So we ended up swapping the kitchen out for a one with like just a plain green tablecloth and then these like yellow chairs for like a little pop of colour. They also do tie in with the bedspread because that is also yellow and green. And I do end up using quite a lot of things, I think, or a few things from the Horse Ranch kit, just because I love the wood texture of those furniture objects. I love how old they are and like they look like worn. Some of the the items in The Sims can be like a bit new. They look too sleek, and I don't think that always fits the aesthetic of what I'm going for. And Horse Ranch just has that perfect balance of looking a bit shabby, but not like it's completely run down like the stuff you'd find in Werewolves. And then over in the corner here, I add in just a tiny little TV section where they can, if they want, come in and watch some telly. I don't think they'd use it often, which is why I just gave them like this old small one. I think it's kind of maybe if it's just raining or late at night when it's too dark to do anything outside, they'd come in and maybe watch TV, or they'd maybe read. So it's not a huge space, but it is just somewhere where they can sit down, and also they could entertain guests. When guests come over, they could sit on the sofa and have a good natter. At the bottom of the bed there, I added in there like little dresser. I went with this older one just because I feel like it matches the aesthetic of the build a little bit better than the other one I think the other one is from For Rent, and it's kind of modern looking. So I think this one fits it a little bit better. And then now I'm coming in and just finding some artwork. I think I go with the ones from Horse Ranch again, because they have like nature themed prints. We don't really have that many. We have like landscapes, I guess, or like mountains, but we don't have too many. There's only like a handful of artwork that is kind of nature themed, but also like slightly old. I guess it's probably a very niche aesthetic, which is why we don't have any. And then I come in now and just adding some hobby kits and some skills items throughout the build. I give them like the little knitting thing, because I think it'd be super cute if they sat out on the deck and could like knit or embroider some items, or maybe they hang them on the shelves. I give them some photos because I think they are out in nature a lot. They probably go hiking, so maybe they're into photography. And then on the front, I give them like the little, I'm not sure what it is, it's like the bush, so they can like clip it into like different shapes and stuff, you know, live their Edward Scissorhands life. And then by the front door here, there was like a little bit of space, so I decided to give them a laptop and just somewhere where they could sit down and use the computer if they wanted. It is like movable. I think I think they could do this skill and this skill, and I'm like creating this sim that has like everything. They're a gardener, and I'm like, but they could also write, which is why they've got a laptop. I just like to give my sims the skills that I wish I had. But yeah, they've just got a laptop. Maybe they don't use it often, but it's there if they need it. And then on top of it, I added in some candles, because I think late at night when they light them, it looks super cozy in here. And then in front of the sofa here, I wanted to add in a rug. And that red swatch that I paused on for a minute there, that nearly changed the whole entire bloody build. I'm not going to lie. I saw it and I loved it. I hadn't seen that swatch before. I'd seen it like there. And I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. And I was like, should I decorate around this? And I was like, no, I'm too deep into this build. We'll pause that. We'll ballpark that and we'll do that another build. But yeah, I don't know what it is about those reds that I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. But I ended up going with something different. I had to get it off my screen before I divulged, and this build became something completely different. And then I just added in a bookcase and then a few more rugs just like dotted around to break up the flooring a little bit, before moving on and adding in the plants, which are again probably one of the main features of this build. I kind of wanted it to be like maybe they outdoor, they like propagate and they grow things. You know, they've got all these flower beds, so maybe they like take clippings and create their own like unique flower bunches and bring them inside into their house. So I did want to add a lot of greenery inside as well as outside, because I feel like if people are really into gardening and outdoors and nature and stuff, it does often merge into their like interiors of their house. They bring it inside. They've got loads of plants everywhere, so I wanted to have plants on literally every surface, and every corner. So maybe they've like ran out of room, so just like stuffing these plants wherever they can go. And I think that'd be really cool. I imagine this place would smell really nice. I feel like it smelled like quite earthy and like, I want to say leafy, I don't know if that's the right word, but you know, like when you go to a garden centre, and because there's so many plants of like different types, it just smells like, I don't know what the smell is, but it's really nice. And I imagine this place also smelling like that. I obviously did the task of coming around and trying to find curtains. We have to use these blinds. They're from the pet pack, because they're the only ones that kind of fit, and of course they cover the whole entire window. I mean, come on Sims, can we have open curtains? Or, I mean, would it be that hard to create the function to open and close the curtains at this point? I mean, that would be fun. So each morning your Sims could come and open their curtains. I mean, would my Sims ever do it? Probably not. I would probably forget, but it would be a nice feature to have. And then again, I'm just going around, and if I see a surface that doesn't have anything on it, whack a plant. If there's a surface that has a little gap, whack a plant. I tried to bring in like different colours, so use like these ones that I don't know what they are. They're kind of like sunflowers, but also kind of not. And like loads of different planters, so like nothing really matches. Kind of giving the effect that maybe they started with a couple and it's grown over time, rather than them going to the garden centre and buying like a ton of plant pots at the same time, which would probably match at that point. I kind of wanted it to look like a growing collection and something that's ever changing. On this wall here, I added in these like little succulent plant pots, and they're super cute. They have like really cool swatches as well. I think they're from Tiny Living, and I just kind of mixed it up so they've got like all the different swatches. I do love doing that, like a little wall, like a little gallery wall of plants, but like the same plants, just different swatches. There's the Blooming Rooms kit came with one, and they remind me of coffins. They're not, but they are shaped similar to a coffin. You can just kind of see it on the screen there. And they're like wall planters, and they have like loads of different, I think they're mostly succulents, but some of them are overspilling, and they come in like different swatches. And I love to do a wall and add like a gallery wall and add all the different swatches to that. I decided there wasn't enough plants on the outside and decided I wanted to come in and add some ivy. I mean, it was the main purpose of adding the trellis in the beginning, but I wanted to like cover it in hanging ivy and stuff. Again, something I wish we had more of. There is some in Jungle Adventure, but I feel like the leaves are such a specific colour that they don't match everything. And it would more go on an edge. I want it to be able to lie flat on the roof and like hang down. I think that looks so cool. Maybe I just need to get some CC and figure it out so I can like get it out of my brain and we can move on. Either side of this like deck area, I decided to enclose it in this ivy trellis. Because I think that'd look really cool. Maybe this is where it started from. It like grew from this flower bed and the person has encouraged it. Because I feel like I would want to encourage ivy. It looks so pretty. I've said it before though, it's really bad for your house, I've been told. But I mean, it looks so good, so is it worth it? I don't know, you tell me. There's this like little restaurant like not far from me, and it's very popular, it's very picturesque. It's kind of famous in like the local area. They make postcards out of it, and every year it gets covered in ivy, and it goes like this really cool shade of like reddy orange, and it's stunning. And I wish my house looked like that. God knows what it looks like underneath, because it's been on that it's like a restaurant, it's like a little cafe, and it's been on there for years, since I was growing up, so at least 3 decades. And I think it's been on there for longer. I don't think they've ever removed it. So like since the building was made, which was hundreds of years ago, because it's like a really old stone building, it's had this ivy on it, and that is still standing. So I feel like my little terraced house could also have ivy on it. Although I feel like sometimes buildings aren't made the way they used to. So maybe that is the reason that it would destroy it. Anyway, let's get back to the topic of this build. I then added in some of this, I think it's grapes, but I'm going to pretend it's lavender. It could be either, honestly. I think it's from Cottage Living. So you kind of get like that dangling effect at the front of this. What are they called? Is it a pergola? I honestly couldn't tell you. Maybe it's a veranda. I'm not sure. I feel like there's a lot of words for basically a similar thing. I don't know what you'd call it. I'm just going to call it a porch, I guess. That's the one from the Jungle Adventure that I think is kind of, I like it because it hangs down. It's just way too much. Island Living does have this like mossy ivy stuff that is kind of for the floor, but I managed to like raise it up. I'd spin it around a bunch and kind of jam it into all these crevices, because I kind of wanted to cover the whole of this lattice effect on top. I wanted you to, if you're like on the deck and looked up, I didn't want you to be able to see the sky. I wanted it to be covered in this ivy. So I come in with this, since it's quite big, and add that as like a base layer, I guess. And then I come in with some of the smaller pieces from the base game and fill in any of the gaps that you can still see, and just like maneuver it into place that aren't these massive gaps, and it's kind of like this blanket of ivy across the whole thing. I'm not gonna lie, I am slightly obsessed with it. I do love how it turned out. And then we are now moving on to the back garden. Of course, we add in some planters to our windows. These ones are different from the front of the house though, because like I said, I want to mix it up. I wanted to make it look like it grew over time. So I do use some different ones like at the front and at the back. And then at the sides, I think I run out of options, and we kind of use some that we've already used, but just in different swatches. I am now moving on to their bathroom. And the bathroom is like, it's like a decent size. I mean, it's not huge, but they get everything they need. I again come in with like these earthy wooden tones, and I'm gonna complain again, the tile swatches in The Sims are not that great, not gonna lie. I feel like they're very, I don't know, just the colours aren't great, the textures aren't great, and like when you get like a really good pattern, the colours are stupid. Like they just, I don't know. I complain about The Sims all the time, but do I still play it? Yeah. And will I continue to play it? Yeah. And will I continue to buy these bloody expansion packs that cost us an arm and a leg? Yes. But I will do it complaining the whole entire way. There is Inzoi now though. Has anyone played Inzoi? I feel like that's quite popular. I feel like it's hit and miss. Some people don't like it for how realistic it is, but some people are loving it because of how like customizable it is. I've not got around to playing that one yet, but if anyone has played it, or if anyone is thinking of playing it, let me know like what you think of it. Let me know if you think it's going to be your new staple over The Sims. I do think it is good though that The Sims, I'm going off on another tangent, can you believe it? But I do think it's good that The Sims has some competition, because I feel like they've been the only game like this in this genre for a while. And I'm not going to lie, I do think they are getting slightly lazy with it because they know that because they're the only ones, they can check out anything and we'll buy it. I mean, it's evident in the fact that they give us half broken kits and all this, like they'll put out an expansion and half of it doesn't work or half of it is missing. It's also evident in the fact that none of the wood swatches bloody match. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just know that they can put out whatever and we have to buy it because we A, like The Sims, and B, there's no other alternative for us to go to. So I do think it's good that other games or other development teams are pushing in and making space for themselves in like this genre, even if like maybe it doesn't work out the first time. But maybe it'll give The Sims a kick up their ass to actually pull their finger out and give us something good for a change. Anyway, I'll stop ranting because I do realise you didn't come here for a rant video. You came here to see me do this lovely garden house we're currently working on. So we are now moving outside, and I really wanted to give them a greenhouse. And I have seen that you can get wooden greenhouses, and they're absolutely stunning. If you've not seen them and you're into gardening, have a look at them. They're very cottagey, and I really want one in my house. They are a bit expensive though, not gonna lie. But I wanted to recreate that and give them like this wooden greenhouse in the back garden. And it I've never done a greenhouse before, and I was like trying to figure it out. I had like a reference picture up, and I was like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do it so it looks like a greenhouse and not like a shed? Because in the reference picture I had, so your typical glass greenhouse is just glass. That's basically it. All the walls are glass, the roof is glass, and it doesn't really have anything else. Whereas these wooden ones, between like the windows on the side, in the reference picture I had, you could see like the wood. So obviously that's how you know it was a wood greenhouse. So you could see the wood coming out from between like the windows and stuff. It wasn't like solid glass like the more typical ones were. So I wanted to recreate that and leave some space around the windows so you could still tell it was a wooden greenhouse. So it did give me, I did like have a minute trying to figure out what windows I wanted to use that were going to be able to like sell that. I feel like maybe I could have used columns and put columns like between the window frames to like give the effect that it's still wood. But in the end I went with these greenhouse windows because they are my favourite and I'm absolutely obsessed with them. Mainly because they have some variations that are open. I mean, the bar is that low in The Sims that I love a window just because they've got that little added detail that the window is open for a little bit of difference. So I did end up using those. And then I came in and added like loads of stands. And then I took the time to add like these little propagation or starter trays, I guess, to the top of them, and I hand placed all of them, and it did take me a fair minute, but I think it looks really good. Like overall, they're not all lined up perfectly before anybody comes and complains. Like I don't think any of these would, but maybe somebody is like, oh, they're not even lined up, they're not even, the gaps between them isn't even, and they're not in straight lines. They're not. It's just a little bit rugged, let's call it that. It's handmade, so it's not going to be perfect, but I do think they look really cute above there, as if like he's maybe starting to make vegetables or something, and he's like put them in these little planters first before he moves them outside into like the bigger garden or into some bigger pots. And then I also just dotted around some of the other stuff from the kit. It's from the gardens kit. I can't remember what it's called. Blooming Rooms. It's not Blooming Rooms. I made that one up. It's Greenhouse something, I think. I can't remember. But yeah, I just added in these like little planters and like stacks of pots underneath, just of like supplies they would have in this room. And then I gave them 2 of these counters so that they could come over here and, you know, like pot things, and this is where they would work and like grow their garden, I guess. There is also like a couple of different things, like some bags of soil, some watering cans, like tools, that kind of stuff. So I added them at the bottom, and then again I came over on this side and we added in some more of like the little trays so that like they've got all their starters growing. And I think that's super cool. My granddad has a greenhouse, and every time I go over he has one of these, and it's just full of like little starter plants, like little things that are like just slightly growing, and they're taking over all of his surfaces. And then underneath he has like all his pots that he's got spare that he uses in them. So that was kind of the inspiration for this, and I'm not gonna lie, I love how it turned out. I think it's so cute. I don't know what it is, I just think it's a really nice space, and I imagine I can just like feel like when the sun hits this, I can smell it. I can just like I know what that experience of like is walking into this greenhouse after the sun has been like blaring down on it all day, and it's like super hot and humid, and you can like smell the soil. And I just think it'd be really cool. So I recreated it in The Sims. It was like nice to actually use this kit as well for like what it was intended to. I add these like items like dotted around the garden sometimes, but this is like the first time I've come in and built like a real greenhouse in a while. So it's kind of fun to really get into this kit and like use it, I guess, as for what it was intended to be used for. And then underneath, I just add some more of like the bigger plant pots. And like just like the overflow items they have, I guess, for like that they're maybe not using now, but you just kind of accumulate this stuff. I feel like when you are gardening, like you'll buy a plant and it'll come in like a pot, and then that pot that plant will then outgrow it and you'll need to move it into something else. You've got like an extra pot and you just kind of amass all of this stuff. I don't add a light out here because I feel like it probably might not have electricity. They often don't. So I don't add the light, and then I open the door because I think it looks super cute with the door open. I was thinking of doing it on like an angle as if it's just like a jar, but then your sim wouldn't be able to come in here, and I mean there's not really anything they can do in here. It's just a space to be, but I decided to change it and not have it like slightly open. I went with it just being like fully open, so if they did want to wander in they could do that. And then I move on, and I'm just trying to figure out the roof because I feel like it looks weird. I don't ever figure out, I don't think so. Instead, I just remove the roofs. I just change it to the mode where you can't see the roofs. And if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So I forget that it looks weird. And we move on with the rest of the garden. So out here, again, I wanted to give them a place where they've got like all their plants and stuff. And then also just like a nice place where they could sit out and enjoy their garden, enjoy the sun. They've got this like nice river running like at the back of their property. So I imagine it gets like very picturesque out here. It's very relaxing, I feel like. Don't they say that I feel like you're around water? It like puts your body, I don't know what it's called, but it's like your body just like subconsciously like lowers down, like, and it like gets relaxed and like gets into like this state of like chillness. I think it's like like where people have like fish tanks. They say they're meant to be like really good to have in your house because they just promote like calmness. I don't know what it's called, but I think that's true. I don't think I just made that up. And then we add in some seating, so like they've got somewhere if they want to come out and eat their breakfast or just sit and relax, they can do that. And then I add in like some flower beds after. I also give them this flower arranging table because like I said, when we do it inside, I feel like sometimes they clip like their flowers that they've been growing and make them into bouquets and put them inside their house. They could even come in and sell them if that is like a side hustle that you wanted them to have. So I just wanted to give them a table where they have that as an option. And then in this like space, I wanted to make sure I added in lots of plants just so they could grow their own things. And it was kind of harder than you imagined to lay them out in a way that made sense and in a way that didn't make them just look like they'd been put there like for no reason, like just dumped there. I kind of wanted it to look still like it made sense and they'd thought about it. I also gave them the bug boxes because I feel like maybe they compost. I feel like lots of people who are into gardening do compost, so that is an overlapping hobby. So I wanted to give them the bugs so that I was once going to get into composting because I got really into gardening for like a few months, and apparently you should put bugs in your compost, like worms and stuff, because it helps like break down the food and add like nutrients into the soil. So that was the thought process behind giving them bug boxes, so they can like what's the word? I don't want to say breed their own bugs, but you know, have their own bugs that they can use within the gardens. Maybe they have all these bugs and then they introduce them to the soil in the planters to promote like all the nutrients and stuff, so then the plants will grow better. That was like the thought behind that. And then I'm coming in now and just adding in some final details around the house. We add in our flower boxes to the side windows that I had forgot, and then I add in a couple, I think I do come back and add in a couple of flower beds in their back garden, just kind of dotted around. I add in a couple of lights so at night it looks like really pretty out here, and you can kind of see what you're doing. Yeah, there we go. I add in like a little one behind here, and then I also added in the hedges around the whole perimeter of the house, which I do love. I love those hedges, and it just like, I mean, I could probably remove the fence since I've added those because they act as like a fence, but I do keep the fence just as like that little pop of colour in the background, like a little bit of brown. I debated using my favourite string lights and like trailing them up around the garden just for something a bit extra, but I figured I've used those way too much. Well, it's probably time I did a build and didn't use them. But yeah, that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and now we are going on to the tour.